Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a single, absolutely foundational piece of ancient wisdom that honestly still has the power to completely reframe our modern reality. We're zeroing in on a concept built around what might just be the most famous and, let's be real, probably the most intimidating sentence in the entire history of philosophy. Just let that sink in for a second. The unexamined life is not worth living. Talk about extreme philosophical stakes, right? Uttered by Socrates over 2,000 years ago, this is definitely not some catchy bumper sticker or a casual piece of self-help advice. This is a massive, heavy line drawn right in the sand regarding human existence. We're going to spend our time today unpacking exactly what this means piece by piece because we really need to understand the sheer weight of what Socrates is demanding from us here. To really get this, we have to frame the quote accurately. See, Socrates isn't offering a gentle suggestion for self-improvement. He's not saying, hey, maybe journal once in a while, you'll feel a bit better. No way. He is making a hyper-aggressive absolute claim about the very nature of human existence. He's laying down a rigid, binary condition for a valuable life. Basically, you're either doing the inner work or your life lacks worth. It is a bold, take-no-prisoners claim that flat out refuses to let us off the hook. So let's zoom in on that very first condition, the unexamined state. What does that actually look like? Well, fundamentally, it's a profound lack of introspection. It's moving through your daily routines, waking up, going to work, eating, sleeping, without ever actually stopping to ask the underlying why. Why do I hold these specific beliefs? Why am I pursuing these goals? Why do I react the way I do? The unexamined life is kind of the default state of human gravity. It literally takes zero effort to just drift along on the currents of society and habit.
To truly honor the Socratic method today, I want to turn this around right now and ask you to evaluate your own level of daily awareness. Are you observing your life, or are you merely experiencing it? Think back to your day yesterday. How much of it was driven by conscious, deliberate choice, and how much of it was just you reacting to whatever popped up, totally stuck on autopilot? Experiencing life is passive. Events just sort of happen to you. But observing your life, that requires stepping outside of yourself, looking critically at your own actions, and demanding some real accountability from your own mind.
Which brings up a pretty stark contrast. On one side, we've got the unexamined state, which is all about autopilot, pure reaction, and blind routine. And on the flip side, we have the examined state, which is built entirely on introspection, intention, and acute awareness. When you lay it out like this, it becomes incredibly clear what we lose when we choose not to look inward. If you stay in that unexamined state, you're basically surrendering the steering wheel of your own existence. You become a mere passenger in your own mind. Now, this builds perfectly into the second half of the quote, where Socrates issues what we can basically call the ultimate ultimatum. He doesn't just say the unexamined life is like suboptimal or that you're missing out on some potential. He takes his concept to its absolute most extreme logical conclusion. He draws a devastating line in the sand that is literally echoed through millennia, acting as a stark warning to anyone actually willing to listen. Not worth living. Wow. Why would a philosopher make such a dramatic life or death ultimatum? Well, because to Socrates, human beings possess this highly unique capability for reason and self-reflection. To ignore that capability is to completely reject the very essence of what makes us human in the first place. If you're acting purely on instinct and habit, you're operating way closer to an animal or honestly an inanimate object. To Socrates, a life completely devoid of that distinctly human act of reasoning simply forfeits its reason for being. And this forces a really critical question onto us. How exactly do we define our life's worth? Because let's be honest, so often in our modern society, we define worth externally. We obsess over our bank accounts, our job titles, the amount of stuff we've accumulated. Or we let some opaque social media algorithm mathematically decide our value based on how many likes our breakfast photo gets. But Socrates, he's challenging you to realize that true worth isn't measured externally at all. He's implying that undeniable worth is generated entirely through internal self-awareness. It's 100% an inside job. Okay, let's walk through the actual logical sequence of this Socratic argument. First up, worth requires awareness. You really cannot value what you don't understand, and that absolutely includes yourself. Second, lacking awareness means lacking agency. Think about it. If you don't know why you do what you do, you aren't truly choosing your actions. Your habits are doing the choosing for you. And finally, without agency, existence simply loses its intrinsic value. So the core takeaway here is that the absence of examination directly leads to the forfeiture of your life's true autonomous value. But hey, it is definitely not all doom and gloom. Let's pivot away from the severe negative framing of the quote and look at the positive resolution. It's literally the title of our source text today, The Merit of the Examined Life. See, by defining what destroys a life's worth, Socrates is actually handing us the exact blueprint for how to create it. The true merit of doing all this rigorous inner work is the complete reclamation of your own existence. It's making that massive transition from being a piece on the chessboard to finally being the player. So, how do we actually pull this off? Well, it starts with a really simple pause to just observe your standard Tuesday afternoon routines. Once you pause, you've got to question your underlying motives. Ask yourself why you're really doing what you're doing. Do you actually want this, or is it just what's expected of you? Then it's all about aligning those daily actions with your true intentions. When your actions actually match your values, that is when you finally begin to realize your life's conscious worth. It is a precise roadmap for getting from an unexamined state to a truly worthy examined one. And that brings us straight to the ultimate payoff. The tragic cost of ignoring this inner work is ending up with a life technically lived, sure, but totally devoid of agency. But the ultimate merit? That's a life completely imbued with conscious value and deep purpose. The continuous and, yeah, sometimes pretty difficult effort of introspection is precisely the thing that generates your personal merit. The friction of questioning yourself is exactly what sharpens the blade of your existence. As we start to wrap this explainer up, I want to bring this philosophy directly into your reality right now. Ask yourself, is your life worthwhile? And I don't mean based on what your boss thinks or what your family thinks, but based entirely on the Socratic standard. Are you actively cultivating the self-awareness required to make your life an absolute masterpiece of intention?
Let's make this super practical. Think about your daily work. The unexamined approach is just clocking in, going through the motions, and staring at the wall until you get that paycheck. But the examined merit, that's taking the time to uncover the deeper why in your labor, really understanding your career's purpose. Or think about how you communicate. Man, it is so easy to just react emotionally on impulse when someone frustrates you, right? The examined merit, however, is taking a beat, understanding those emotions, and responding with deliberate intention instead. Philosophy isn't just some abstract theory. It is highly practical technology for better living.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today, and honestly, what I find absolutely fascinating is that this entire philosophical framework, this profound behavioral shift we've been digging into, stems from analyzing just one single, incredibly potent historical sentence. The unexamined life is not worth living. It's proof that sometimes the most complex, world-altering truths can be distilled into the absolute sharpest, most concise ideas. So I'm going to leave you with this final lingering challenge to take with you long after this explainer ends. Don't just nod your head, agree with Socrates, and move on to your next distraction. Actually take the ultimatum personally. How are you going to examine your life today? Which routine will you finally pause? Which motive are you going to question? The merit of your life is right there waiting for you to uncover it, but you're the only one who can do the digging. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and until next time, keep examining.